David, how you doing, sir?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Looks like your camera is off.
Ooh, hold on. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you well. Just no
You can
no.
hear me okay. All right. Well, I wonder. Give me just 1 second here. For some reason, my audio's a little off.
Well, I guess the show is about me right now. With me.
Oh, technical difficulties. I feel like we're the Vikings.
With Ed Donatello's defense, right?
Yeah. Well, give me just one moment here. I'm wondering. I'm wondering why I'm not getting any audio on my end. Give me just one moment here. Oh, all right. Well, maybe headphones on. Let's see.
Technical
Oh, hey,
difficulty.
I don't want to do that either. All right. Give me just 1 second, David.
Okay.
Let's see if we can get this thing going. Can you see me?
No, I can't see you at
You
all.
can't. Yeah, I didn't think so. All right. Well, let's get this thing. Let's get this thing back started here. Give me just 1 second.
Well, whoever's out there listening, there we go.
All
There we
right.
go. There we go.
Hey, you know
We're
what? We're
up.
having like the Vikings. I like it. We're right on. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, not too bad. Well, obviously, welcome to the Skull Purple podcast. We're starting out hot, just like the Vikings. Obviously, we had a tough day today, tough sledding. The Vikings dropped to the Lions. I believe the final score was 33 to no defense. No, it was 33, 33 20. What was that? 23 is what we lost. So
Yeah.
certainly for the betters out there, if you bet on the Lions, you're a happy person. Did go over 51.5 as well. So the over and the Lions were good bets today. But David, it was a tough one. What are your initial thoughts on today's game?
I mean, we've been saying it for weeks that the defense has to get better. They got to scheme a little better. They need to get more pressure. Too many 3-and-outs for the offense. It just feels like everything that we've been nitpicking at for the past couple of weeks just came to bite us in one game. So it kind of feels like the NFC title game in 17, where we were just saying like any day now, Keenum's gonna just don't have a bad game, and it happened at the worst moment. So it's kind of silver linings that they still got time to correct these things if they are correctable.
Yeah, yeah, it was a tough day. It was a tough day to watch. Certainly, we'll get into all the different facets of it. I don't think the score is indicative to how the game went. It was a rough day. Like 10 point. It did not feel like a 10 point loss. It felt like we lost by 21 points.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I get that we scored late, so that plays into that. But
Mhm.
it never really felt like we were in it. It kind of felt like the Dallas game, except we actually scored some points. But
I don't. Yeah, to me, it didn't feel like Dallas. Dallas was just an on whooping. Like they couldn't get anything going. But this game just felt like they're gonna get back into it. They're right there, and then
yeah,
next thing you know, defense lets them down. Like there's no way possible you're going to win a game in the fourth quarter where you get a drive where where you're behind and these guys have the ball for over 6 minutes. and field goal with it. Like you're not going to win that way. So
right. No, I totally agree. Um, it was just a rough day all around. It felt like all three phases had their moments. The offense certainly struggled. I think the injuries clearly with Darisaw and Bradbury, those were huge.
right.
Defense, certainly we'll get into that, but they looked plenty rough today. And then special teams, while Joseph made a few kicks, we gave up some big returns. It felt like all three phases had struggles today. So, but one thing I wanted to bring up, because this was on my mind, I'm sure for many of you, and certainly myself, most of this game was the play calling. Obviously, some suspect moments. I really did not like the jump pass call for Cook. I did not like them going for two early on when we were down 21-7. I mean, I get that you're trying to swing the momentum and us getting a score and then a 2-point conversion. It shows the aggression.
Right.
Don't like it. I mean, we were getting carved up. We need every point that we can get. And I don't know if it was to be aggressive or if it was to mitigate maybe some shaky feelings they have about Joseph, but I didn't like the play call there. Ultimately, it felt like we got out-coached today. We got outplayed today. And I'm not saying that KOC is a bad coach. He's a young coach. There are going to be moments, and there have been moments already this year where he has even admitted that he felt that, he was maybe a bit out-coached. Doesn't mean he can't get there. He's figuring out. So what were your thoughts on the play calling?
I'm not necessarily like too upset about the play calling. I think the play calling on offense was fine in my opinion. I think it was just lack of execution. The Dalvin Cook fumble, come on, man, just fall on the ground and go down. There's another play after that. Like whatever he was doing, he was looking for a dance partner or so. I don't know, but the ball was clearly like when he was trying to shift or whatever, it was already out. So that play there, if Cook actually goes down, and then there's another play, which is lack of execution on the player. The going for two, I get it, because your offense is moving, their offense is moving. That 1 point might be the point that you get to win the game. So I think it was lack of execution. But what I am having a problem with KOC is CJ Ham. If you're having a problem in the running game and you don't have Darisaw out there, and the O-line is not as strong as it could be, put the lead blocker in there. That's why I'm going to be interested to see what they're going to do when Irv Smith comes back. So,
that'll be an interesting facet. That'll be an interesting piece when he does come back and what that looks like. I just thought that, the play with Cook, he was supposed to pass to, I don't know which lineman it was, but that was the play. It was the little trickery where he was going to get the ball and then the lineman was going to break off the line into the back of the end zone. And so he went to basically bring the ball up to pass, and that's when things just went to crap.
That's too cute. Come on now, let's not do that.
Yeah. I mean, and the way that our defense was playing, again, you got it. It really came down to which team was going to make the other team's defense one-dimensional.
Right.
And they got up early. I said this in our Lions-Vikings preview. They got up early, and they made our defense one-dimensional. And our defense is not good enough to become one-dimensional and still, be a serviceable defense.
Right.
Not their defense, by the way, which was why it was so important that we got up early. Right. And so it's unfortunate the way it happened. But, yeah, I thought the play calling was suspect. Stuff to work on there. I'm sure that'll come up in the press conference. I guarantee. And then the next thing I was going to bring up, and we've already talked about this. I mean, we have to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. It's just the defense, man. The defense is a liability. I mean, what was it? What did they say during the broadcast? 5 straight games of giving up over 400 yards of offense. I mean, that's just, It's brutal.
That's ridiculous.
I think we talked a little bit before the show started and before I just magically disappeared from the stream. But you mentioned that you feel like it's more on Donatel and his play calling. Is that kind of your feeling?
Yeah. It's more on Donatel because it's kind of like this though, right? Like there are a couple of third down plays where the DBs are lining up behind where the first down is. So all the running backs or the tight ends have to do is get past the marker and catch the ball, and that's it because they're playing off so much. I'm not saying that these guys should be pressing all the time, but the way the Donatel defense is set up, and then that hockey substitution going on, like I was referring to you guys last week, where you're just taking the line out and just switching them all the time, like that's cool when you're winning games, but when you're like losing games and you can't get the defense off the field, it shows. It shows. I don't even think if Harrison Smith played today, maybe that Jameson Williams touchdown doesn't happen because the number 44 doesn't stay stay too close to the line of scrimmage. But I just think it's play calling all the wall with Donatel. I think at the end of the day, Donatel knows how to coach up a 4-3. I need to see Danielle Hunter with his hands in the dirt on these third down plays. I don't need him standing up at all. I don't need Zadarius Smith dropping off in coverage. I mean, you have the personnel. You have the personnel. Do it. Like I just don't understand it. And Shannon Sullivan, I mean, is he a secret agent? Because he came from the Packers and he's really playing like he wants us to lose. So I mean, it's just watching that game. It's like, okay, 3rd and 9, they get 12 yards. 3rd and 5, they get 6 yards, and it's like, come on now.
Yeah,
it's too late to fire on.
Right there at the end, like we could not get off the field on 3rd down. They'd be in these longs, and you're going, I don't even feel. I mean, safe is probably a weird word to use, but as a fan, right? I didn't feel confident that we'd be able to stop them when they're at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. And why? Because they kept picking them up. It was so bad. It was honestly probably one of the worst defensive showings I've seen since last year. This felt like last year's defense, which in a way shouldn't be too much of a surprise because it's not like our personnel has really changed that much.
Right.
I was happy to see Cam come back, and I think it was good to have him back. But he's a guy that's just coming back from injury. When he got burnt on that long touchdown to Williams, is that him getting burnt? Is it him expecting safety help? We don't know.
The safety supposed to be help. Like the thing about like how Donatel and even a lot of these defensive coordinators, they have their DBs match coverage basically, right? To where you're going to be able to figure out if you want to press or if you want to stay back. And with the safeties, it's like if you want to go to the line, you want to drop back for the pass. That's why you see Harrison Smith, and Cam Bynum constantly moving all the time. And he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. It just I don't blame that on Cam Dantzler. They needed safety help, and he didn't have it. So that's Donatel's fault for not putting these guys in the right situation.
Yeah, having Harrison Smith go out was tough. That was a tough loss there, especially against a very talented team. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the Lions. They are very good on the offensive side of the ball. Between Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark has speed. Obviously, we don't know what they have in Williams, but he's obviously a talent to be a first-round pick, or at minimum, a consensus first-round pick without the injury. So I just think that it was going to be a tough task, and then you add the injuries on top of it. I also think losing a guy like Caleb Evans too would have liked it, just because he's a physical young corner. I'd take him over what we like Duke Shelley. I'd certainly rather have Evans and Shelley. So it was just a tough day for the defense. That's kind of the theme of the day for the Vikings, is that until they get some sort of defense put together, whether that's schematically or they get some personnel back from injury.
What personnel they gonna get back?
Because well, I guess besides Smith, I just think then the depth too. Depth helps because there's some guys that get rotated in,
right?
And when they get gas, especially in a game like today where they're probably getting gassed a little bit.
Yeah.
It just, the Vikings defense is predicated on the proverbial bend but not break, and they broke today, and they couldn't hold them to field goals. That's how we've been able to stay in all these games. Is that we've
Yeah.
been teams? Look at the
Holding the
Jets,
field goal.
5 field goals for the Jets, right?
Right.
So it just didn't work out today, and we'll come back from it. We'll come back from it. Um,
I got a
next,
thought too.
go ahead, David. What?
Is if so I just thought of this right now. Maybe it's not just it's a bad defense for Donatello. Maybe this is a reflection of Quasi. Because if you
Yeah.
think about it, his draft class is that defense. First pick, second pick, right? They're both hurt. There's no Seam this year. Andrew Booth is done for the year. So it's kind of like, did we? I'm not saying I don't love the Hawkinson trade, but like the defense, they're not gonna get any guys back besides Harrison Smith that's gonna actually like change things. They're all hurt.
Yeah, he had long-term injuries too.
Yeah, they're done for the season. And
Yeah.
it's not like you're going to get somebody at the local Walmart that's going to come, you know, guard these guys.
Well, and the other part of it too, and then you talked about this from like a DB standpoint, where the DBs are playing off coverage so far. One of the things that I think about with this defense too. So, David, you play a lot of Madden. Like,
Yes.
yeah. So I love to play Madden too. We should play Madden together. Um,
Don't do that.
I'm not great. I'm not great, but I know like so because I'm a Vikings fan,
Yeah.
I like to play with the Vikings, and
Yeah.
obviously our defense isn't great. And the other thing is when you play pretty decent players in Madden, they're going to score on you pretty much no
I'll
matter.
make them look good.
So the biggest thing is you gotta create pressure, right? You gotta
Right.
create pressure on the quarterback. So if our defense isn't good, right? And I hate to say it because we just have to admit at this point, this defense is not good. I don't even think they're average. They are definitely below average. That might even be nice.
Right.
That means we have to create pressure because we have to make the quarterback uncomfortable because any NFL quarterback, that's why they've talked about us making, Mike White look like Josh Allen and, all these narratives. But the reason is all these guys are talented. They all have the talent to carve up a defense. That's why they were drafted. That's why they're on an NFL roster. So we have to make them uncomfortable and hopefully get them to make mistakes. That's
Right.
what this whole defense is predicated on. So this kind of soft defense, it's it's almost like if we expect to go far this year, we're going to have to be a little more high risk, high reward.
Right.
And at this point, if we're just sitting back and letting the game come to us, we're going to see a lot more games like we saw today, and that's not going to be a fun end of the way to end the year for sure. At least for Vikings fans.
So do you think the Jets and Cowboys have a good defense?
I think the Jets have. I think the Jets have a good defense. I think they're pretty opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other team you mentioned?
Cowboys.
Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have a really good front four, and then I think they've got a corner in Diggs who is aggressive. I don't know. I like to hate on Trayvon Diggs just because I don't know, he bugs me because he's always
He's
dog
not good.
Vikings. But I think if I want to give him any credit, he's very, very aggressive, and because of that, he will jump routes. He'll get burned every once in a while, but he's willing to take risks.
The reason why I'm asking is because it's like if you look at the old Mike Zimmer defenses from, the Vikings heyday from a couple of years ago, and with Dallas defense now, Philadelphia's defense, and the Jets defense, their defensive line gets a lot of pressure. So that means that their cornerbacks and their secondary, they don't really have to cover for that long, and stuff like that. The Vikings' problem was like when I'm trying to like point it, just like what you said, piggyback what you said, they're not dialing up enough pressure, so it makes the cornerbacks and secondary look awful because these guys are staying in coverage for too long.
Yeah, exactly. Any quarterback that's worth their weight in salt in the NFL is going to carve you up. And Jared Goff has the talent to do it. We saw it. We've seen it in Detroit. We saw it in LA before he came to Detroit. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we can't give these quarterbacks time. That's for sure. If quarterbacks have enough time, they're gonna carve us up. That's for sure. Let's see here. Let's do. David, I wonder if I lost you. Oh, I think we might have lost David just for a moment. I'm sure he'll be back. Looks like we have a few comments here. First one's from Fred. Fred says, do you think y'all be having a 2020 Steeler year? That they started 11-0, but something wasn't clicking. Yeah, I don't know. I hope not. To be honest with you, we had a similar year. I think it was 2016, the year before the Minneapolis Miracle, where we had Sam Bradford. It wasn't quite 11-0 or 10-3, what we are now, but we did start out 5-0 with Sam Bradford, and see if we can get David back in here in just a moment. We did start out 5-0 with Sam Bradford, and then I think we rattled off something like 6 straight losses or 7 straight losses. So as a Viking fan, we've been through it. It was just brutal. And here's our other compadre, Mr. Carson Schubert, the founder of the Skol Purple podcast. Hello, Carson. We miss you. We've had some technical difficulties earlier. It feels very consistent with the day that the Vikings have had. So yeah, your prediction did come through with the Lions taking us to task. So it is what it is. Here we are, 10-3. That's for sure. All right. Oh, look at that, Dave. We got David back.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Okay.
It's actually storming out here in California.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The power is going in and out.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Stay safe, man. Yeah, I thought it was me, so I just kept talking, figuring if they can hear me, we'll just keep. We had a few comments anyway, so I got to address the comments. Carson says hello, by the way. So he's with us in spirit.
Okay.
And in the comment section. Very good. Yeah. So again, the thing with the defense is, I just think we need to, like you said, we need to get pressure. Yes. And to your point, we need to get the quarterback off schedule. And I think the front four, I say front four even though we run a 3-4, but our line at times has done a good job. We saw Goff be a little uncomfortable early. We saw that, and I kind of was thinking, I'd say for the first probably 10 minutes of today's game, those first 2 offensive series, certainly the first one for Detroit, I was thinking, okay, maybe we have a good game plan here. Maybe we can get them feeling uncomfortable. And unfortunately, that was not sustainable for the rest of the game. But that's the kind of stuff that you're talking about that we need. Hunter, Smith, we need those guys to be able to get home.
Right.
Guys like, Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips. There you go. We just need those guys to make the quarterback uncomfortable enough to let the corners breathe a little bit and feel like they're not having to be, out on an island. I know we play a lot of. At some point, you got to start covering guys if they have all the time in the world, right? So
it's hard. It's hard to cover guys, who has 4.3 track speed. You're not going to cover guys that long. I think Donatel is, how these offensive coordinators are innovative. They try new things. They put receivers in the backfield, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a defensive guru, but the quick fix is easy. What you do is you put Danielle Hunter back on the line and you move everybody else over, and you replace Danielle Hunter's linebacker spot with maybe Patrick Jones, right? So that way your 3 down linemen will probably be Blacklock, Tomlinson, and it will be Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips, and Danielle Hunter. Those 3 guys, right? So you're not going to rush them. You're not going to rush, blitz all the time. Blitz is when you bring somebody else that they can't cover. But just putting Danielle Hunter back on the line, you fortify those 3 down linemen. And I think the problem that we're having too is the other guy. I think is DJ Wanham, who's basically like the the quote unquote DN, but not really. Um, he's not that, you know.
Yeah,
He's not that. You need to switch him out with the nil and take the nil's place with linebacker play with Patrick Jones, because Patrick Jones played that before in college, and that's the quick fix. And um, another thing too, I've been thinking about this all week. Not to throw it off subject, but Lewis Seen. I keep going back to Lewis Seen. I'm thinking maybe the Vikings drafted him not to be a safety.
oh, you think they maybe were thinking about turning him into a corner or a
No,
linebacker?
I think he was drafted to be a linebacker,
Yeah,
because if you think about it, he's just as big as he's probably bigger than Eric Hendricks, and he's faster than Eric Hendricks. And I'm thinking like maybe with that devastating leg injury, they might have to push that there, because he's going to miss a lot of his speed, coming back. I'm just thinking about it, like he was drafted as a linebacker. I think like Shaq Barrett and all these guys were like safeties in college and stuff too, and they became great linebackers. So
sure.
just what I'm thinking. Maybe these guys need to hire me personnel department.
The payroll. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting thought. It would be interesting to know what they're going to do. I mean, obviously, right, if we had a crystal ball to know what they're going to do next year. And it's certainly going to be something they're going to need to address
Yes.
off season. I mean, this defense has to be the focal point, outside of maybe just a few things here and there, like, the kicker. Not that Greg Joseph didn't. He was 2 for 2 today, I think.
He did his job.
Extra points, he was clean. But at this point, I think he's sealed his fate. Outside of anything really crazy where he literally does not miss a kick for the rest of the year, where he goes perfect.
Right.
I think at this point he's probably sealed his fate for at minimum competition, if not an outright replacement right away.
Right.
So we'll see. And then I would say this offseason we also need to start thinking about, depending on where we're drafting and who's available, thinking about maybe drafting a quarterback. And I'm not, you've heard me talk before. I'm not a Kirk hater, lover, stan. I just try to be realistic about it. And at the end of the day, you always need to be looking at the future. So even if you love Kirk Cousins, you just have to go, okay, well, it's not going to hurt to bring in a guy to be behind him that is, barring something weird, injury. Obviously, Kirk's not going to get any cheaper, and he's going to look to maximize his value, as he should. I don't hate him for that. But at some point, especially with the defense and the shape it's in, they're probably going to need to definitely draft some folks, but also invest some capital potentially in that defense. So yeah, that's another thing they'll need to look at. So it'll be an interesting offseason. But let's not talk about that. We're still 10-3. We're still 10-3. We're still looking forward to next week, which will be Indy. That's going to be a Saturday game, which is going to be a little weird. Kind of nice though, get up on a Saturday, watch the Vikings. I can just relax on Sunday and not feel my anxiety levels fluctuate all day like they do right now. What are some of the things that you're looking for in the Indy game coming up, if your mind's gone there yet?
They have one of the best running backs in the game, Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. And Michael Pittman Jr. is pretty good too. So the offense is, I'm not worried about that. Everything now that I'm looking at is geared upon how is the defense going to make adjustments to get better? How are they going to get pressure? How are the corners are going to cover guys? They can't afford to keep dropping these games. I mean, I see that they're in a good spot right now, because Dallas can't leapfrog them at all. Dallas can have a better record than us, and they still can't get the 2 spot. So, but you got the Niners down there who's still winning games with their backup quarterback. So everything I'm looking at forward is what adjustments are going to be made for this defense. If Jonathan Taylor goes out there and rips it for 200 yards, we got a serious problem.
Yeah.
Serious problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is going to sound like a crazy statement, but understand we're living in 2022 and not 2018. I don't know if Matt Ryan scares me more than Goff does. Probably a little less, and he's not very mobile. Not that Goff is super mobile either, but at this point in Matt Ryan's career, I would almost say he's maybe even less mobile than Kirk Cousins. So,
Yeah,
if we can make him feel uncomfortable, we should be able to affect their game plan. But you already talked about it, and you hit the nail on the head as far as Jonathan Taylor needs to be bottled up. We need to basically force Matt Ryan to beat us because if they can run on us, boy, they're going to be running all day long. And unfortunately, if they get him involved in the passing game too, that's been a weak spot,
yeah,
certainly. So, yeah, I mean, as much as I feel like we should win this game, um, I don't feel safe, man. I don't feel this defense is so poor that it really, really relies on that offense to carry us. It's like the reverse problem that Denver has,
yeah,
where Denver has a good defense. They'll hold a bunch of teams to 13 points, but they can't win any of them. It's kind of
right,
the same with the Vikings right now. Like, we can score 24 points. The problem is I can't guarantee that our defense can hold a team under
right,
24 points. So,
exactly. Where's Terrence Newman when you need him? I need a defensive mutiny right now. I need Harrison Smith to go in there and say, "Look, we're not running this no more. We're losing too many games." I mean, it it's something has to change because I don't think it's the personnel. Like I really don't. I think it's this Ed Donashell scheme that he has, and he's an older guy, so he's kind of grizzled in his ways, and it's just like, I mean, the defense was bad last year, but at least Mike Zimmer still got pressure without the
yeah,
no hunt.
yeah, yeah.
So
Thing at least with Zimmer, he was going to bring that double A gap blitz. That's for
yeah,
sure.
he was gonna do something, but it's just like Donatello is just. I don't want to say it, but he's not Vic Fangio.
Yeah,
Okay, he's not. That's the mistake that we've had, and he won't be there next year. I can
yeah.
guarantee that.
Yeah, I mean, unless they turn a corner and again things just go crazy
And they
for
win a
us.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of feel like Ed Donatel's probably in the same boat as like Greg Joseph, that we
Yeah,
were talking a minute ago, where unless there's something crazy happens where we go on some elite run, especially on defense,
hmm
then yeah, his fate's probably sealed. And who knows? I mean, you never know. They could look at it and say, well, we're going to give him another year with some additions, whether that through the draft or free agency. Overall, though, man, this defense just has to get better. And I agree with you, though. It doesn't necessarily feel like it's just the players. It feels like schematically things are also poor.
right.
Uh,
That's Mike Pettin.
I mean,
Like,
the other thing is, too, and we talked about playing Madden, right? It was like they were just a bunch of zone beaters. Like every route we were watching was like, yeah, it's open over the middle again. It's open over the middle again. It's crossers in the middle. Let me guess. Like every third and long that they converted, it was
right.
over the middle. It's a crosser.
I think Donatello's theory, and his last couple of press conferences where he kind of like alluded to it, basically saying like, as long as the team goes out there and scores more points, the defense doesn't matter. And last week they had all those field goals in the red zone. Well, it's easier to play defense in the red zone because guys can't run that far. Like it's a shorter field, so you actually have an extra player out there
Yeah,
because that's just what it is. But there's not a way, like he's just an old grizzled veteran coach to where he's set in his ways, but this is going to get this team burnt. And Kevin O'Connell, like as a young coach, you got to look at that, and you got to do something. You got to get in there and just say like, "Hey, look, what are we doing?"
yeah,
Like what ask the players like, "What are you guys comfortable with?" Like these are not like run of the mill players. These are not Jags. These are not just the guys. Like these guys. Harrison Phillips is going to be in the Pro Bowl this year. Daniil Hunter is a perennial Pro Bowl player. Eric
yeah,
Kendricks is probably the one best linebackers in the league. Harrison Smith is a Hall of Fame player. Patrick Peterson is a Hall of Fame player. Majority of your defense is good, are good players. So what's the problem? It's
yeah.
schematic.
Yeah. Erica says, I love Cook, but She's disappointed in the fumble. Boy, Erica, I think both David and I would agree. The fumble was rough. You know,
what he was doing.
after all the years of living through Peterson's fumble issues, I've gotten lulled into a sense of security with Cook because, in general, he takes good care of the ball. And so, yeah, to see that, especially in a game that we knew was going to be tight and kind of a pivotal moment. I think even at the time, I thought, like we really needed because if we could have scored there, it really felt like we were going blow for blow with.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. I don't know what that is.
He was looking for a dance partner. I don't know what he's doing.
We're going blow for blow with the Lions, and then with us with the fumble. Then it really felt like they were kicking the crap out of us all of a sudden, right? So it was this big momentum shift. Yeah, I don't know, but that's one of those plays where if he pulls off the jump pass, we'd all be going, "Well, look at the play call. They're getting creative."
Yeah.
Well, in the back of my mind, I'd probably be thinking like, "Hey, let's not get too cute here." If plays like that, if they work, we go, "Oh, look at that!" And if they, of course, fail, it's that high risk, high reward thing. So I couldn't agree with you more, Erica. It was a tough one. Carson says, "Yeah, Kendricks can't cover." I just think Kendricks is losing a step, and this is the other thing. I think Kendricks is being asked to do too much. I think
that's what it is.
Zone coverage where he's asked to cover too much ground, where he's covering north, south, east, and west. So in our coverage, he'll be the man in the middle, but now he's got to cover basically everything in front of him, behind him, left, right. And so, yeah, sometimes he's going to get beat, especially over the top deep, because he's shorter, number one. And number two, our corners aren't great. So,
I just feel there was a mistake with trying to force the 3-4 this year. They shouldn't have did the 3-4 next year. I see Carson saying that's too old. I mean, I think about it like this: when you have a 4-3 defense, right? You have 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers. That linebacker only switches out is when you go to a nickel. Just like you said, Kendrick's in the middle in a 3-4. He doesn't have that much space to cover, and he knows the other 2 linebackers have to be reliable for their coverage too. When you're in a 3-4, now instead of having a zone that's like this to cover, your zone is like this now, right? And then the other linebacker has the other zone. So it's kind of like he can't cover that. I wouldn't even think he would be able to cover that 3 years ago. It's a 3-4. And I don't understand why Donatello doesn't see that and say maybe on these 3 and young plays, we're going to switch it to 4-3. Have a multiple type of a defense where you can change the front and change the sets. But they don't even have a third linebacker if you think about it. So
well, that's what I mean. I know he had a lot of injury issues, especially over the last 3 or so years. But I think we talked earlier in the season on the podcast, where I think that I think Kendricks is missing the presence of Barr, and that be a surprise. Obviously, when he was healthy and certainly firing on all cylinders, Barr was a hell of a linebacker. But I just think the way that they kind of came into the league together, they were both young players. They knew where they were going to be. There was that trust factor. You were talking about Kendricks knows where Barr's going to be. Barr knows where Kendricks is going to be, and that way you can play free, right? And I think right now there's still a lot of thinking. And then I do think that our secondary is a bit suspect, where he probably feels like he needs a cheat too a little bit here
to make up for it.
Out of position.
Yeah, you can't take 3-4 linebacker. I mean, 4-3 linebackers and make them 3-4 linebackers. There's difference in speed. There's difference in terminology. Like if you take a linebacker, let's say like E.J. Henderson, probably was a good linebacker with the Vikings, right? And you try to put him out there as a 3-4, he's going to get burnt. If you take Chad Greenway out there and he's not going to be playing those hook and curls, the side linebacker, the defense, he's going to get burnt in a 3-4. Like this defense was doomed when they decided to make it go 3-4. So we just talked a couple of minutes about Eric Kendricks and how the 3-4 is affecting him. Look at how it's affecting Danielle Hunter.
Yeah.
Like it's that's what I'm saying. It's schematics. It goes back to Donatello to where it's like you ran a 4-3 before. Go back to that when you need to get a play stopped because these guys can't do the 3-4. They just can't.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the only thing with obviously now if you switch from Donatel in the offseason is whoever you bring in next, are they going to stick with the 3-4? Obviously, I'd like, in a way, it'd be. I just think you got to commit at some point. You're either going to commit to the 3-4 and then staff accordingly, or you're going to revert back to a 4-3, but then understand that now you've got an off season where people need to digest new scheme that they haven't played in a season, and there's always some natural attrition, obviously, with players and who's going to be there and not. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They need to do something. Erica says, seemed like his head wasn't in the game today, obviously referring to Dalvin Cook. I just think at some point the tough sledding is going to become tiresome. And I'm not saying he's disinterested. I think he's still running hard and he's still a hell of a back. I just think if it were me, especially on a day like today where the O-line was beat up to begin with, it just was tough sledding, and some of it was I felt like the play calling could have been better. And I don't know if that necessarily played into his fumble. I just think that, he's like, I'm sure frustrated like everybody else. It's always tough to lose. And the other thing is, even when they're winning games, I'm sure there's a bit of frustration with just not being able to put teams away. I mean, every week it's, a struggle. And thankfully we've gotten a lot in the win column, but, that starts to wear on you too. So, yeah. Carson says turnovers are hard to overcome. Yeah, with this defense. I mean, David, you and I talked about that a little earlier, right? It's just the defense's job in the state that it's in is just to disrupt the offense, and hopefully our offense gives them the ability to just pass rush, and continue to pass rush and not worry about the run because we've made the other team one-dimensional.
Right.
If we can do that and just pin our ears back, guys like Daniil and Za'Darius, even Dalvin Tomlinson, those guys can go to work, and they're hell of players. I mean, they can get after them like the best of them. But if we got to start scheming, and it's not great.
It's not going to be great. It's just like just watching this game just gave me a headache. I'm just sitting there looking like okay, 3rd and 9.
Yeah.
They get 10 yards. 3rd and 5. They get 6 yards.
Yeah. Well, and this one's not going to be an easy one, David. So, of course, we got to give out our game balls. But I'm going to make a proclamation since I'm hosting. And I'm sorry, Carson. I'm just gonna run with this because you're not here to tell me no. I'm gonna say you can give your game ball to a Lion or a Viking because I might struggle to give a Viking a game ball today. So we'll do 2 apiece, but again, pick from the crowd of players or anyone who you'd like.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to take the obvious one. Game ball, Justin Jefferson, over 200 yards. I mean, he made a statement today that you can't guard me. I mean, it was a great game. I just feel bad that it was wasted on a loss.
Yeah.
But
we have 213 yards.
Yeah, he killed it today.
Yeah.
But it don't mean anything in a loss.
Yeah.
That's just good for somebody's fantasy team. Well, my fantasy team because I have them in both my leagues. But
I had Amon-Ra St. Brown and JJ going today, and JJ definitely outperformed him. But they both had good days.
Yeah, so I mean, I gotta give it to JJ. His first 200-yard game probably won't be his last.
Yeah, no, certainly won't be his last. I'll take the other low-hanging fruit then. I'm going to go with Ed Donatel. No, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit, which will be Hawkinson. I mean, I know he had the big drop like early, but at the end of the day, that wasn't. I mean, it is what it is. He had a big day. It was nice to see, and I almost felt like that early drop. It almost like sparked him a little bit because he made some tough catches in that game, and catches where he took some big hits over the middle. and he proved today why we got him.
Mhm.
So even though it came in a loss, a lot like Justin Jefferson, while not as crazy in the
Mhm.
statistical column, it still was a really good day. Detroit generally hasn't given up a ton of yardage to tight ends, so it was nice to see him come through and certainly help us try to get a victory, even though we didn't get one. So game ball number 2, David. I know I'm going to struggle with a second one, but I'm going to pass it over to you selfishly, so I don't have to choose a second one. I mean, I'll choose one, but I don't want to be first.
Second game ball is going to go to my guy, Kirk Cousins. What I'm saying, Kirk Cousins is, hey, I'm gonna keep saying it. The guy has the best ability that a quarterback has. That's his availability. He takes these hard hits, gets up, throws the ball down the field. I mean, he was slinging it today. He had over 300 yards today. I mean, just like with Justin Jefferson, he came into a loss, but still, I got to give it to Kirk Cousins because he was getting hit hard, and he still got up, made plays,
Yeah.
shrugged it off, and he did the best he could do. This isn't a game where you blaming Kirk Cousins for the loss. So he did it. The offense did their part. So
Yeah.
Kirk.
Well, my last and second game ball, I'm going to give it to a group. And I know this is a little bit cheating, but I'm going to take off your game ball or who you gave it to. I'm going to say our wide receiver depth because I can't necessarily give it to KJ or Thielen. I feel like they both earned it here, so I'm just going to go with wide receiver depth. It was nice to see both KJ and Thielen show up today when they needed to. They both made some big plays. Obviously, at the end of the day, it just really wasn't enough. But boy, I thought that it didn't feel like anybody had disappeared. Right? I felt KJ had some great catches. Thielen had some great catches. Everybody was playing hard. It just at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for the position that our defense put them in, and then obviously had the one turnover. That was again unfortunate. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the wide receiver depth because I feel like at times they've disappeared at moments this season, and today I felt like everybody was all hands on deck.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they better because Raker's breathing down their throat and Irv Smith is coming back. So they better start catching some balls.
That's,
They're gonna be over there sitting on the sideline with clean uniforms.
yeah. Who was it? I can't. And maybe you can tell me. But there was an interview this week. Maybe it was Wes Phillips that said that Rager basically made the statement that he can tell why Rager was a first round pick. Like he was like, guy's got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And
He
I
does.
that, right? Like any of these guys, they have an immense amount of talent. It's just, does it translate, and do they have the coaching and then the people around them to cultivate it? So
Right. When it comes to Rager during that draft, I understand that's the COVID draft. A lot of guys didn't play that year, so they were just coming in. I actually wanted Rager more than I wanted Jefferson.
yeah,
I'm just being honest because I felt Rager was his was way more explosive at TCU than JJ was. I really thought Chase was going to come out and be a better receiver than Jefferson, but Jefferson just
yeah,
changed my mind. But I think
yeah,
Rager can do it too.
yeah,
So
yeah. I hear you. All right, David. Well, we're gonna get into our final statements. We'll wrap it up. Put this one behind us, just like we did the Cowboys game, and then we'll look forward to Saturday. A little bit of a shorter turnaround, just kind of like we had the week with Dallas. Obviously, it's only a day versus being a Thursday game, but I'm sure our boys will get back to work in short order, and we'll see where we go from there. But what's your final statement for the week, David?
got like maybe like two final statements. Sometimes you get what you ask for. Now, what I'm saying with that is Zimmer was outed because he was a defensive guy who didn't spend a lot of time with the offense. Now you got an offensive guy and your defense is bad. So going forward, it's going to be real interesting to see if Kevin O'Connell can get in that defensive room and get these guys together because the offense is there, but the defense isn't. And, it's it's kind of feeling like it's the reverse of Zimmer right now. I'm really skeptical about the next game. I really think they might drop that one too. So I want to see what they're going to do next week with this defense. My final thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I obviously tough week. We talked about it ad nauseum today. Looking forward to Saturday. Obviously, I love watching the Vikings, so I'll always watch no matter what. If I had to endure the 3-13 season with Christian Ponder back in 2000 and whatever that was, 2011, and I watched every single one of those games, I'm certainly going to watch all these games. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. But this team is a talented team, but there are holes. And because our record is what it is, teams are going to put in the work, right? They're going to game plan for us. They're going to look to see, what we're weak against, and what works to counteract whatever we're doing offensively or defensively, because we're going to be there in the playoffs. So if you're a team like Dallas or Philly or Seattle or the Niners, you're looking at all of these losses and going, okay, how did they beat them? So it's really up to our coaching staff to make sure that we have a counterpunch to anything that's going to get thrown our way. And that means addressing some of these weaknesses, whether that's going to be through scheme or, something else. So we will certainly see how that goes. Looks like David said his power went out again. Well, that's all right. We are wrapping up the show. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate anyone who has joined. Appreciate that you were here to kind of hang with us this week. And even though it was a tougher game against the Lions, again, Lions win. They pull out the victory against the Vikings this week. Tough loss. Vikings drop to 10-3. Lose to the Lions 33-23. So thank you so much. I certainly appreciate you joining us, and hopefully we will catch you guys on the next one. Skol Vikes!